There's a myth out there that in order to break a bad habit, you have to replace it with another habit. The research does not support this. That in fact, some behaviors we don't want in our life at all, and they don't necessarily need to be replaced by another habit. Part of the problem is that we don't really understand what habits are. I think these days people use this term habits to basically mean, I want to do something, but I don't want to have to work real hard at it. Right? I want an exercise habit because I don't really like to exercise. I want a writing habit because writing's kind of hard. I don't really feel like doing it. And somehow if I magically made a habit out of something, it could be effortless and I wouldn't have to go through the drudgery of actually doing the task. But that is not how habits work. In fact, the definition of a habit is the impulse to do a behavior with little or no conscious thought. So how could it be that we would do difficult tasks, what we call deliberate practice, if something is done with little or no conscious thought? It's in fact the antithesis of a habit. Deliberate practice requires us to be fully present. I've been a writer now for over a decade, and let me tell you, I've written 2 bestsellers and hundreds of articles. It's never something I do with little or no conscious thought. Writing is always hard. It's never going to become a habit for me because it's hard work. If you go to the gym and you lift weights with little or no conscious thought, you're not getting stronger. You're wasting time. So a habit is never something that requires a lot of effort. That's the opposite of a habit. Instead, what we need to do is to realize that not every behavior can become a habit. In fact, very few behaviors can become a habit and qualify as behavior done with little or no conscious thought. What they are what we call a routine. A routine is simply a series of behaviors frequently repeated. So you can have an exercise routine or a writing routine, but not necessarily form a habit around those behaviors. We need to realize that every habit starts as a routine. So the first step is to do that behavior with sufficient frequency, but not expect everything to become a habit. Now, isn't this just semantics? Why does this even matter whether we call it a routine or a habit? Here's why it matters. Because many people, when they subscribe to this religion around habit, that somehow every behavior can just become a habit and then it'll be super easy to do, when that invariably fails after 40 days or 60 days, people have this myth that if they just do a behavior a certain number of days, somehow it's magically going to become a habit. Well, what happens on day 61 when it still isn't a habit? It still sucks. It's still hard. It's still difficult. Many people quit, and they quit because they think there's something wrong with them. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's something wrong with the methodology. We have to understand that not every behavior can become a habit, that behaviors need to first start out as routines, and only some of those behaviors can become habits. And most importantly, for those behaviors that are important to us, that are part of our values, the ones that will maintain always as routines, we need to be comfortable with the discomfort of doing those behaviors, to build the kind of resiliency in ourselves so that when we face that discomfort, when it's a hard task to do, we know how to deal with that discomfort in a healthy manner so we can keep going.